Good evening. Welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the law, the Constitution, and the events of today together each month. And we're very fortunate tonight to have a guest. But Mark, who is our guest tonight?
Okay, this is Akopova, and she's a spokesman for the WalkAway campaign, which is a movement of folks who left the left, and she's going to be our guest on the show tonight. And so, Lily, what about a little bit about your background? Where are you from?
Sure. I'm originally from Russia. I was raised in Moscow City specifically, and I lived there until I was 18 years old. And I was never really into politics or anything like that. I wasn't registered as a Democrat or Republican, but I think because of my location, my upbringing, and my culture, I was always leaning towards the conservative side. But again, I wasn't really involved in anything. When I was 18, I won a green card in a green card lottery, and I was able to move to America and became a citizen a few years later. I moved to the Los Angeles area, and I didn't speak English back then, so I had to take English as a second language classes and go from there. And a few years later, I moved to San Francisco, and this is where my journey really began. This is where I work here as a mental health counselor, and the population I work with are mostly homeless people with mental illnesses. And in my free time, I work with the #WalkAway campaign.
Well, tell us a little about this #WalkAway campaign. What's that all about?
Okay. That movement consists of former Democrats who saw how divisive, intolerant, and violent the Democratic Party has become. And they decided that they no longer want to be a part of that, and so they left the party. They walked away from the Democratic Party.
Have you ever seen, like, the Democratic Party be violent?
Oh, absolutely, on a daily basis.
Well, can you give me an example, like, when you were kind of afraid something might go wrong?
Yeah, in fact, that's how my WalkAway story started. The way it started was in 2017. Ben Shapiro was supposed to come to UC Berkeley and speak at the university. And I was still a Democrat back then, but I was kind of starting to do my own research. And I wanted to go and see him and see his points of view.
And this was at UC Berkeley?
This was at UC Berkeley, yes. But I couldn't go and see him because I was afraid for my life. I was afraid for my safety. And this was all over the news. The footages are out there. The way UC Berkeley reacted to his event wasn't very welcoming.
Well, let me ask a question here. Okay, so you went to UC Berkeley, and Ben Shapiro was supposed to talk. Did they actually allow him to talk?
Yes, he had to fight to get in there, but yes.
Okay, because I understand that the regents at UC Berkeley, somehow it influenced the city mayor to tell the police to stand down. Isn't that correct, what you kind of ran into?
Yeah.
And so who was on the street trying to really enforce the law if it wasn't the police?
Who was trying to enforce the law?
Yeah, or enforce the anti-Ben Shapiro.
Who was in control?
In control, it was Antifa, and Democrats were everywhere.
How many
around.
Antifa were there at the Ben Shapiro entrance to his show?
As far as I know, hundreds and hundreds of them.
And were they dressed in black?
Absolutely, that's how they dress.
And what was their response when you went close to them?
So I didn't actually go to this one because I was afraid for my life. So I was watching online live. I was only starting to walk away back then. So it was the beginning stages of my story. So I wasn't bold enough yet. But I saw that Antifa started fires on campus. They were smashing and damaging things. There were helicopters flying around. UC Berkeley offered free therapy for their students because a Republican was going to be on campus.
But isn't this kind of a UC Berkeley tradition to have the riots and burning and helicopters and stuff going on? I thought that was kind of like
I later
Part of
found
back
out.
to the 60s.
like the school song
Yeah.
or something, you know.
Yeah, which is really sad because that's where the free speech started. But I later learned that, yes, this was the pattern because the same thing happened when Molly Yiannopoulos tried to do that. The same thing happened when Ann Coulter tried to speak there.
So what happened when Ann Coulter showed up?
Well, she was actually there recently, a few months ago, I think. And,
But they let her speak at that one, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you go see Ann?
I did go to see this
Well,
time.
what happened when you went to go see Ann?
Well, when I showed up, I could already hear the Antifa chanting.
And how many Antifa were there?
Again, over 500.
And 500 in a pretty small area.
Yeah, it was at UC Berkeley at one of their buildings.
No, but I mean, there was 500 people. They were all clustered in one group.
Yes.
There wasn't like 20 here and 10
No.
here.
What were they
No.
chanting?
No KKK, no Trump, no fascist USA, their usual.
But wait a minute, let me get this right. This is Antifa
Yes.
who's claiming that Trump is a fascist.
That's right.
But they're the one there. Did they have clubs? Did they have weapons?
It was dark.
Oh.
They were all wearing masks. I was only trying to get in through the crowd, so I wasn't really focusing on that. But yeah, when I arrived, I saw hundreds of them, and they were in front of the building where Ann Coulter was supposed to be speaking at, and there was no way I was going to go through them. So I asked the nearest police officer to help me, and they just shrugged their shoulders and just said, "That's the way. Good luck." And
So the police were standing down again.
That's right, that's
and this
right.
is just recently.
yes, this was a
Now,
few
was
months
this
ago.
Berkeley police or the campus police?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I just saw a police officer try to get some help, and I couldn't.
No.
Thankfully, I was wearing all black, so I was kind of blending in. So
Right.
I decided, okay, let me go in and see. I got closer to the building, and they were heavy water barricades all around the
So
building.
if there's 500 Antifa people, about how many Antifa thick? Was there like 5 or 6 rows of Antifa as you had to go towards the barricades?
More. I mean,
Like 10 people thick, maybe more than that.
maybe 15, 20.
15 or 20 thick. So
Yeah.
they had like their own, you
Yeah.
know, they basically had a small platoon or battalion
That's
there.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so did you go with a group of the people from the WalkAway group, or I don't understand?
This
did
is
you
before
went-
she was a walkaway.
Okay, this
No,
is,
no.
this is just a couple of months
Yeah,
ago.
this is
You
just a
were
few months
fully part of WalkAway.
Yes.
Did they organize like we're going to take the bus over together and we're all going to go?
No, walkaways there are from all, different
Okay.
states, and we work. Some of them work online, so it doesn't have to be that. This was just I live here, they don't live here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So there's not like an area in San Francisco where you would meet.
No.
And WalkAway people get to go. What are we doing next?
Well, we do meetups here and there, but we don't actually,
Okay.
It's very dangerous. The Ann Coulter's event, not everyone would go to that, and I really shouldn't have gone by myself, but.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering. You went by
Yeah.
yourself?
Okay, so
Yeah.
anyway, you go into the Antifa crowd, which is 15 people thick.
That's right.
So you got to go past 15 people, 15 rows of 15
Mm-hmm.
people. What did people say to you in particular? Did they say anything to you, or they were just chanting in
Oh,
general?
they're just asking, is there a fascist here to see Ann Coulter? As if I was going to say, yes, right here. Well, how can I help you? But I got closer to the barricade, and they formed a human chain in front of the barricade. So they,
so they put their elbows together.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. People tried to walk in there, and it didn't happen. And I tried to get the attention of police officers behind the barricade, and I couldn't really tell them that I was here for the event because I was surrounded by Antifa. They would just kill me right there. So I kind of was like, oh, I need to get in. Can you help me? Just like, and the police officer saw me. He knew I needed his help. And again, he kind of just like shrugged his shoulders, pointed to the barricade, basically said, figure it out. So finally,
So when you were in high school, did you do hurdles or track events or anything like that?
no,
Oh, okay.
no.
Because the
you're-
barricade is basically a hurdle. You just have to, if you have 3 steps, you
Right.
can take it.
I think it's interesting because, yes, the barricade was there to prevent Antifa from entering, but it was also preventing me and other audience members from entering. And I paid $80 for this ticket. I shouldn't have to fight this
Wait a
hard.
minute, how are the people supposed to get in?
Exactly.
And wait a minute, was there an opening in
No.
the barricade?
There was no
You were supposed
openings.
to climb over the
Exactly.
barricade?
That's
You
what
climbed over the
That's
barricade.
what
No,
I
you're
ended
supposed
up
to hurdle
doing.
it. It's
Well,
like
that-
1,
wait.
2, 3.
Oh, wait a minute, okay. And who wasn't this a Republican Party of Berkeley that sponsored this? Or the club?
I think Berkeley Republicans,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
okay.
don't even know if they were aware because when I finally entered the venue and there were only a few people there,
Like 2
I
people
wonder
there.
why. They were wondering, where's everyone? And we had to tell them that it's impossible to
get
in.
Yeah, right. It's
Yes.
blocked.
Wow. So did they go out and then make a
Okay, so
Finally.
how did you get over the barrier?
I jumped over the
How
thing.
big was the barrier?
It was like this,
No, you climbed over.
something like that. Yeah.
So it was a 4-foot barrier.
Yeah, it was very.
And it was like, you couldn't move it. It's pretty heavy.
You could not. It was
It was
water
full
filled.
of water. It's like one of those blue
Water-filled.
water things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Was it
and
like those round things?
It was the orange ones.
Oh, the orange
Yeah.
ones. Okay, okay.
And so as soon as I entered, which was an impossible task, the entire crowd surrounding the building started booing and screaming and yelling, and they didn't do it with other folks, other few people who also were able to do that, and I was wondering why I was so special. Turns
So
out
this is kind of like crossing the Berlin Wall here. You
Okay,
know?
wait a minute. Why
You're
were
going
you
from
so special?
You're going from East Berkeley to West Berkeley. It's
turns
like-
out they thought I was Ann Coulter.
Oh.
Because it was
Well,
dark.
there is a resemblance.
Yeah.
It was dark.
There is a
I'm tall.
resemblance.
They saw a blonde lady, and they thought Ann Coulter, their brilliant
Got through-
minds,
got through the blockade.
into her own event.
Oh man, yeah, I would be.
Well, how
autistic.
was Ann Coulter that night?
I was too busy thinking how I was going to get out of there alive to even focus on what she was saying.
But did she catch anything?
Huh?
Did you catch anything?
Well,
How many people were able to get in eventually?
about maybe 70.
Wow.
And how many would the place hold?
The place was supposed to fill much more people.
Like 1,000 people?
Hundreds.
Okay, 100. So
Yeah.
70
Okay,
people
well-
managed to jump the barricade. Now, I'm interested to know, because a lot of times, like I know a lot of people went to San Jose to a Trump rally, and everything was okay on the way in, but on the way back, when they're trying to get their cars,
right.
people were like jumping on cars and breaking windshields and like coming up and hitting people in the back of the head and stomping on people in gangs of 4 or 5 or 7 people were like jumping on Trumpsters who had a hat or a shirt on. And I actually know a fellow who was in regular civilian clothes, and he was there, and he said, yeah, if you had any Trumpster gear, they'd jump on your car and, they'd attack you and beat you. So, I mean, but anyway, did you have any problem on your egress, on your leaving the Ann Coulter rally or whatever?
It was the scariest experience of my entire life. I felt like I was in a horror movie being chased by zombies because UC Berkeley, it kind of looks like a park. Okay,
Right.
I'm not familiar with the campus. I didn't go to that school. And thankfully, I found a friend at the event, and so we could leave together. And we would go straight, and around the corner, a group of Antifa would show up.
And how
there
big were these groups of Antifa?
50 people.
And you had how many people?
Me and my friend.
So you had 2 against 50.
Yeah.
And what would happen if the 50 caught up with the 2 of you?
I don't think I'd be here right now.
So you think you'd be killed or beaten badly?
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Yes, I'm not even
And
joking.
so as you were trying to do your egress and you were like basically praying, you were like evading these groups of 50 and basically platoons after you to kill Trumpsters, how many of those platoons of 50 did you have to avoid?
They were everywhere. We would
Do you
change
think there
our...
was 5, 10, 20 battalions? they had?
maybe at least 5. I
About
saw
5
a few
battalions,
on
yeah.
my way to the car. So we would change the direction, and then another group would show up, and
So
they would
you
have
got
to
2
change the
scouts and
direction.
you've got 5 battalions trying to stomp you.
Yeah.
That's tough. And you made it
It's
out
a
of
pretty
there.
scary moment.
And
And
the
so did you
security-
have tennis shoes on? You have running shoes, or do you guys?
I had, something like tennis shoes on, yeah.
or did you
But
have to
I
run
also
for it?
had the blonde hair, which didn't help. I needed something to cover my hair, and,
Right.
and the MAGA hat wouldn't work. So
yeah, the mega hat. They said here, put on your mega hat. Yeah, maybe you got to get a little Antifa hat.
Well, I'd like to change the subject a little bit. I'd like to talk about something that you probably live with every day, and that is what's it like to be a Republican in San Francisco?
That's interesting because I actually know what it's like to be both a Democrat and a Republican. Because when I first moved here, like I said, I wasn't into politics at all, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what Democrats were really like. And so I wanted to be part of the community. I wanted to be open-minded and play by their rules, and I really tried. And when you're in San Francisco, you're in this bubble where everybody thinks the same and acts the same, and they want you to be a part of that. So I tried, but here and there, I would say things that were somehow offensive to them without my knowledge. It wasn't offensive to me, but they perceived it as offensive. And they would lecture me and criticize me in group settings and really shame me, make me feel really terrible about myself. So again, I tried to play by their rules, and I started really forming my sentences in my head first to make sure it wouldn't be offensive before I could even speak it out loud, to kind of, you know, fit in better and help them out, and not get, so that they wouldn't get offended. That took forever because, you know, I couldn't speak my mind freely. I had to really think, oh, is this going to offend them? Is that going to offend them?
Right.
So finally, I was basically...
in essence, everything offends them, so it doesn't really matter.
Basically, I was shamed into silence because I decided if I can't say anything without being criticized, let me just not speak up at all.
Yeah, it's the best thing, because you'll be killed.
Do you ever find other people that think the same policies that you think? Or is it just like you just have to automatically censor yourself from ever saying anything that might be even taken as Republican?
That would be the safest route, but there are, you know, undercover Republicans
underground.
here. Undercover, you know.
Well, underground's probably about right, yeah.
Right, okay, so you can't really...
It is underground.
You can't really speak up.
Well, I think if you're a Republican or you're a Trumpster in San Francisco and you're not a group of 10, you'll be killed. So you got to be in a squad of 10 to survive. If you're gonna say I'm a Republican, you've got to be in a squad of 10 because you'll be attacked and killed as a single person.
Do you ever go to events that are Republican events in San Francisco?
I've been to a few.
And are there protesters at those events?
Well, they are not as famous for them to protest it. So it would be like a hangout, you know, you just get a drink or coffee, and it's not as famous as an, you know, an Coulter event. So protesters don't really know.
So what about, weren't you involved in something when you were picking up some trash, and didn't some people come and talk to you about that? Some of the local, social, what do they call it?
Social justice.
The social justice activists. The social justice activists.
Yes.
What did they say when you were cleaning up trash and cleaning up hypodermic needles and cleaning up feces? What did they say you were doing?
So this happened actually a little over a week ago on February 1st. We were supposed to have 2 events on a Saturday in the morning.
In San Francisco.
In San Francisco. In the morning, our friend and a conservative political activist, Scott Pressler, what he does, he goes to different cities where things look really bad, like Baltimore, Chicago,
Wait a minute, he organizes people and you clean up trash together.
No, but let's just make a point. In San Francisco, there is tons of human feces on the street, which gives people cholera, which they thought they've solved 500 years ago.
500 years ago.
But now you've got cholera in San Francisco, which is a deadly disease. There's rats everywhere.
The plague.
Which is the typhus, which will give you, you know, the rats and the lice will give you typhus, the louse will give you typhus, and then typhus, and then you've got the rats, and you have the fleas, which will give you the plague. And there's an incurable strain of plague now in San Francisco. So if you're going to San Francisco, call me first, because you should work on your will and trust, because the chance of you surviving as a tourist in San Francisco, the muggings, the needle sticks, the typhus, the cholera, and the plague, good luck.
Well,
anyway, go ahead. What happened when you were trying to do the cleanup?
I'd like to hear a little more about being able to group, and because this is actually sounding more like the 1930s, when you're trying to like organize and not be oppressed by effectively the brown shirts at that point.
So anyway, what's happening? Well, you can call them the Chekkas, but the Chekkas, these are basically the Chekkas, and they're like well-funded. Soros gives them billions of dollars.
Back to George.
They're protected. The DA can't touch them. The judges aren't going to convict them.
By the way, the new DA.
And as far as you look at this guy, this Berkeley professor, Eric Clanton, took a bike lock and whacked somebody in the head on the video, and, you know, they dropped the felony charges. So if Antifa whacks you in the head with a metal bar or stabs you in the neck or murders you, they're not going to go to jail, and they know that. So, I mean, that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that they're protected by the power structure. They are Chekkas, they are well-funded, and they're completely immune from prosecution. So anyway, what happened? What did they say to you when you're cleaning up feces and needles? There
were 2 shifts to be signed up for. The 10 a.m. shift, one group of people was going to volunteer and help Scott clean up San Francisco. And then I signed up for the 12 p.m. shift. So from 12 to 2, I was supposed to show up and clean up with the WalkAway crew, with the rest of volunteers. during the 10 a.m. shift, and this is all on video, my friends were trying to, and they came here from all over the states, from Utah, you name it, to clean their city.
And about how many people showed up?
150 volunteers.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And so, as my friends were trying to clean up their city, Democrats were, in a creepy way, kind of following them around.
So there was about 150 of the Democrats or the Chekkas that came to interfere?
No, about 150 of her group.
Yes.
But how many of the opposition showed up?
You know, however many people saw my friends, they were walking by and they would say things to them.
Right.
And they said that they had PTSD and my friends were triggering their PTSD. And when my friends would tell them, why don't you just go someplace where you won't be triggered? They said, no, I'll stay right here and be triggered. And so there was no conversation to be had with them. And they basically made it really difficult for my friends to clean up.
But did they make some kind of comment? What was their comment about what you were doing?
So they called us anti-homeless. They said that we declared a war against the poor. They mentioned the police brutality, but that's always...
So wait a minute, you're picking up feces. You're picking up contaminated needles, which you give needle sticks to little kids walking down the street and, that are lethal weapons, actually. And you're cleaning up trash, which feeds the rats, which give people the incurable plague, and lice, which gives them typhus. And that makes you an enemy of the poor? Is that what they're
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Don't you
And
get
by the
it?
way, are you wearing a hazmat suit at this time?
That's funny because during the Los Angeles cleanup, they actually literally did wear hazmat.
you're
But I mean, did you have heavy gloves for the hypodermic use, or what?
See, the thing is that I personally never got to clean up because they protested our trash
They
cleanup.
protested your group.
They protested the 12 p.m. group, yeah, because that's when, you know, WalkAway was supposed to show up. I guess there was a main event. Yeah, and so that's when Antifa mob formed. They had their megaphones, they had their signs.
So how many Antifa showed up?
Maybe 40, 50.
Were they picking up garbage?
No.
Okay, well, the 40 or 50 Antifa that showed up, did they physically assault anyone?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
God.
In
With
fact,
the trash.
They hit in the stomach our friend and a LGBT person, a drag queen, Lady Maga, in the stomach, and then ran away. And
So they're there quite publicly. They're making a media event for Antifa. There's 50 of them. So there's a bloodthirsty mob about to attack people. They punch someone and it's videoed, and the police don't arrest any Antifa? And there's no charges filed? So there's a felony assault, possibly an attempted murder by Antifa, and the DA just laughs and lets it go?
I think the most important part here is that it wasn't just anybody who got assaulted. It was an LGBT person.
Well, the point of the matter is that everybody sees a mob of 50 people.
That's right.
Everyone sees the video of them punching someone, which is a felony assault, and there's no arrest.
Well, wait a minute. Let me add something that you're bringing up. This is an LGBT.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about is the protected class in San Francisco is not protected from Antifa.
As long as they're Republican.
So if it was the LGBT picking up the garbage, the Antifa's going to come through and beat them just because now they're not left enough.
That's right.
And so the whole concept of protecting the gay community is thrown right out the window as soon as you interfere with the homeless.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's a matter of the homeless.
Wait a minute, Mark. I want to hear this. Is that what you saw that day with the Antifa overrides everything in the name of the homeless? Is that what happened that day?
That's what happened.
How did that appeal to you? How do you compare that to your life when you grew up in Russia? Did you ever see anything in Russia compared to what you saw here?
No, never.
Okay.
No. And I never thought that this is where I would end up when I immigrated here. This isn't what I imagined at all.
So isn't it interesting that the Antifa and the Chekkas and the thugs and the Soros-paid mass murderers, they equate human feces, cholera, typhus, and rats with the homeless, because they're saying if you're cleaning up the human feces, if you're cleaning up the rats, if you're cleaning up the typhus and the cholera, that's like cleaning up the homeless? So I don't think they have a very high opinion of the homeless.
No.
So I have a question. Do you consider what you witnessed that day a form of censorship?
Absolutely.
Explain.
In fact, around that time, when my shift was about to begin, I received a phone call from the lady where Olivia with the Women's Building, that's where our LGBT town hall was supposed to be held that same day, that evening. The WalkAway campaign does LGBT town halls. The founder of the campaign is a gay man. His name is Brandon Strzok, and he's trying to speak to the LGBT community and let them know that just because they are a minority doesn't mean that they automatically get assigned to the Democratic Party. They still can think independently, they can do their research, they can be Republican if they want to, or whatever else. And we were trying to organize that in San Francisco. I was in charge
of... So this was a place in the Mission, the Women's Center?
Yeah, the
run
Women's
by a
Center.
lady, Olivia something. And,
yeah.
And you had made arrangements to have a meeting with about how many people there?
We were supposed to have about 150 people.
And so these 150 people weren't from San Francisco. They flew in, they bought plane tickets,
everywhere.
They bought hotels. So
yes,
we're talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars were bet on this lady Olivia's agreement that you could use this hall for this meeting.
That's
and what did she do?
She called me at around 12 p.m., so a few hours before the event was supposed to start, and she said that since we participated in the cleanup with Scott Pressler, we are anti-homeless and we are a disparagement of a group, and that they were canceling our contract. And it wasn't going to happen. The venue.
So basically, you got kicked out of the venue that you had arranged for because you were cleaning up feces and needles and plague and typhus and rats.
Okay, wait a minute. Before we get into all the typhus and plague again, let me say this.
Yes.
Once again, this is an obvious discrimination against the LGBT community based on the homeless being more important than what has been
they're not protecting the
premier
They're not protecting
community.
the homeless. They're protecting the rats.
No, they're okay. Stop. No, they're protecting the homeless.
They're
is that correct? Is this anti-LGBT in the name of the homeless? Is that what this was?
That's what they were claiming, but it had nothing to do with the homeless. It had to do with our political party.
It was all your political party.
Yes.
You're saying because of the WalkAway group being involved, because of them being involved, it doesn't matter if you had blacks, Latinos, LGBT, and trans. It doesn't matter what you had, but they don't care because you're WalkAway.
That's right. And so when we found out the venue was canceled on us, we did a rally in front of the building because free speech. And Antifa showed up again, and they kept chanting, you know, immigrant lives matter. And I'm standing over here. I'm an immigrant. You know, you're protesting.
Immigrant lives matter.
You protesting me.
Not this immigrant.
Well, I guess not if I'm a Republican. I guess it doesn't count anymore. But it was supposed to be an LGBT event by LGBT people for LGBT people, and it didn't happen.
Well, did they allow you to reschedule?
Absolutely not. In fact,
was there a deposit that was made?
They said they wouldn't take our money.
They wouldn't take your money?
Yeah, I don't believe they understood who they said yes to when they signed the contract, even though we did give them the name of our organization and we did write down.
I think maybe they changed their mind.
Well, listen, I want to tell you, Lily, we really appreciate you coming to the show tonight.
Thank you.
And I'd love to have you come back because this subject has so much more because of the dynamics of San Francisco, where you live. And you know what? It could be dangerous every single day.
Yes.
You must think about that because you know what they do.
I do.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Glad you can come on the show.
And I want to thank everyone for coming to Law Talk tonight. And this has been a very interesting show. And I hope you all take a chance and try to look it up on YouTube so you can get all the details again. Thank you so much for tonight.
Oh, we forgot about Eric Charamella.
Oh, that's right. He's engaged to Adam Schiff's daughter.